Captain Lee Minho floated through the cramped corridors of the research vessel Tyson, his magnetic boots clicking against the metal floor with each step. The ship had been drifting at the edge of the Kepler system for 3 weeks now, collecting cosmic radiation samples that would probably end up forgotten in some laboratory back on Earth. He rubbed his tired eyes and checked his watch. Another 16 hours until his shift ended. The bridge was quiet except for the steady hum of life support systems. Park Jesu sat hunched over her communications console, her headphones wrapped round her neck as she stared at the scrolling data on her screens. She had been monitoring deep space frequencies for months without finding anything more exciting than solar wind patterns. "Captain," Jesu called out, her voice cutting through the silence. "I'm picking up something strange on the long-range sensors." Minho pushed himself over to her station, his curiosity sparked. "What kind of strange?" "It's a signal, but not like anything I've ever seen before. The frequency is so low it should be impossible to detect at this distance. But it's incredibly strong." Her fingers danced across the controls, adjusting filters and amplifiers. "It's coming from the direction of the galactic core, maybe 30,000 light-years away." The main screen flickered to life, displaying a complex waveform that pulsed with an almost hypnotic rhythm. The signal wasn't random noise or natural phenomena. It had structure, pattern, intelligence behind it. "How long has it been transmitting?" Minho asked, his heart rate beginning to increase. "Based on the signal's strength and our current position, I'd estimate it started broadcasting about 6 months ago. But Captain, there's something else." Jesu's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "The signal is getting stronger. Whatever is sending this is moving toward us. Double quotes over the next 4 hours." The crew of the Tyson worked frantically to decode the alien transmission. Engineer Choi Do-yeon rerouted power from non-essential systems to boost their communications ray. Science Officer Dr. Hon Yuna ran the signal through every translation algorithm in their computer ban. Pilot Song Minji kept the ship steady while they worked, her hands never leaving the controls. The breakthrough came when Jesu realized the signal wasn't just audio. Hidden within the transmission were complex mathematical sequences, star charts, and what appeared to be historical records. The alien language slowly began to make sense as their computers found patterns and connections. "I've got something," Yuna announced, her face pale as she read from her screen. "The signal is a warning. It's been broadcast by something called the hegemony of Kosovo. They're trying to warn other civilizations about an approaching threat." The main screen now displayed a rough translation of the alien message. The words appeared in chunks as the computer processed each section. "Attention, unknown species of Sector 7 Alpha. We are the final remnant of the Kosovo civilization. Our worlds have fallen to the entities we call the Devourers. They consume not just planets, but entire star systems. We estimate they will reach your region in what you would measure as 240 of your planetary rotations." Minho felt his blood turn cold. 8 months. They had 8 months before this threat reached human space. The message continued scrolling across the screen. "We have observed your species through automated probes. You show the same primitive behaviors as the 17 civilizations that came before you. Your weapons are crude, your technology limited, your social structures chaotic. Like the others, you will attempt to flee or surrender when the Devourers arrive. Neither strategy has ever succeeded." 17 civilizations, Do-yeon whispered. "They've already destroyed 17 different species." The alien warning grew more detailed as their computers processed additional data streams. The Devourers weren't just conquerors or invaders. They were something far worse. They stripped planets down to their cores, harvesting every molecule of useful material. They converted entire populations into fuel for their massive fleet. They left nothing behind but empty space and radiation. "There's more," Jesu said, her voice shaking slightly. "They're describing the Devour ships, massive biomechanical constructs. Some larger than our moon. They can reshape themselves, adapt to any defense, and they learn from every battle. Each civilization they've encountered has only made them stronger." The final portion of the message was the most chilling. The Kosovar had tried to negotiate, to offer tribute, to find some way to coexist with the Devourers. But the entities showed no interest in communication or compromise. They simply consumed everything in their path and moved on to the next system. "Captain," Una said quietly, "according to this data, the Devourers have been moving through the galaxy for over 10,000. Yes, they've destroyed billions of lives, countless worlds, and now they're heading straight for Earth." Minho stared at the alien message, his mind racing through the implications. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it was far worse than anyone had imagined. "Set course for Earth," he ordered, "maximum speed, and start transmitting everything we've learned back to Fleet Command. If we're going to die, we're not going down without a fight." The emergency klaxons echoed through the Pentagon's underground command center as Admiral Kim Seojin burst through the reinforced doors. He had been pulled from his morning briefing just 20 minutes ago when the Taiguk's transmission reached Earth. Now, he stood before a room full of the world's top military commanders, scientists, and politicians, all staring at him with barely concealed panic in their eyes. "Ladies and gentlemen," Seojin began, his voice steady despite the chaos around him, "we have 8 months to prepare for the end of the world. But I'll be damned if we're going quietly." Dr. Han Yuna stood at the front of the room, her laptop connected to the massive display screen showing the alien data they had received. She had barely slept since the transmission arrived, spending every waking moment analyzing the Kosovo records and the Devour attack patterns. "The good news," Yuna said, clicking through holographic displays of the alien ships, "is that the Devourers have a weakness. They're predictable. Every species they've encountered has followed the same pattern. First, they try to negotiate. When that fails, they either run or surrender. The Devourers have adapted their tactics around these expected responses." A general from the back of the room raised his hand. "What makes you think we can do any better than 17 other civilizations?" Yuna smiled grimly. "Because we're human, and humans are completely insane." She pulled up footage from Earth's military history. Soldiers charging machine gun nests, pilots ramming their planes into enemy ships, civilians fighting tanks with nothing but rocks and determination. "Look at our own history. Humans don't follow logical patterns when we're cornered. We become more dangerous, not less. The Spartans at Thermopylae, the defenders of Stalingrad, the firefighters who ran into the Twin Towers. Every other species ran when things got impossible. We run toward the danger. In the weeks that followed, the entire planet transformed into a massive war machine. Engineer Choi Do-yeon worked 18-hour days in a converted aircraft hangar, surrounded by the brightest minds from every nation on Earth. His team had discovered something the aliens never expected. Earth's unique magnetic field wasn't just protection from solar radiation. It could be weaponized. The Devourer ships are biomechanical. Do-yeon explained to his team of international engineers. They use organic neural networks to control their systems, but organic tissue is vulnerable to electromagnetic pulses in ways that pure machinery isn't. If we can generate a strong enough magnetic field, we might be able to shut down their nervous systems. Within months, massive electromagnetic railguns were being constructed on every continent. The weapons were crude compared to alien technology, but they didn't need to be elegant. They just needed to hit hard and hit often. Meanwhile, Palittsong, Minji led a new training program for Earth's combined space forces. Traditional space combat tactics were thrown out the window instead. Human pilots learned to fight like street brawlers, ramming attacks, suicide runs. Coordinated swarm tactics that sacrificed individual ships for maximum damage to larger targets. Forget everything you learned about honorable combat, Minji told her trainees as they practiced in advanced simulators. We're not trying to win a clean victory. We're trying to make them regret coming here. The orbital shipyards worked around the clock, building a new class of warships designed specifically for the coming battle. The ships were smaller and faster than traditional cruisers, built to operate in coordinated wolf packs. Each vessel carried a crew of only 12 people. But they were equipped with enough firepower to cripple ships 10 times their size. Dr. Li Hyunsik, working from a laboratory deep beneath the Swiss Alps, made another crucial discovery. The alien records contained detailed information about devoured biology. The creatures weren't just machines or pure organic life, they were something in between, and that gave them both strengths and weaknesses. They adapt by consuming and integrating new technologies, Hyunsik explained during a video conference with military leaders around the globe. But that adaptation takes time. If we can hit them with something completely unexpected, something they've never encountered before, we might catch them off guard. The solution came from an unexpected source: Earth's massive industrial pollution, long considered a planetary disaster, suddenly became a weapon. Human ships began carrying payloads of toxic waste, radioactive materials, and chemical compounds that would poison the Devourer's organic components. As the months passed, humanity's preparations became increasingly desperate and creative. Underground cities were carved out of mountains to protect civilian populations. Massive mirror rays were constructed to focus solar energy into defensive laser grids. Every satellite in Earth's orbit was retrofitted with explosive charges, creating a minefield around the planet. But perhaps the most important preparation was psychological. Unlike the other 17 civilizations, humanity refused to accept defeat before the battle even began. News broadcasts didn't speak of evacuation plans or surrender terms. Instead, they showed footage of workers building weapons, soldiers training for impossible odds, and scientists racing against time to find new ways to fight. Admiral Seogen stood on the observation deck of the orbital command station, watching as Earth's defenders took their positions. The approaching Devourer fleet would be expecting another frightened species begging for mercy. Instead, they would find 8 billion humans who had spent 8 months preparing to make them pay forever. Why inch of space? The darkness at the edge of the solar system began to shimmer like heat waves on hot asphalt. Commander Lim Tae-young watched from the bridge of his destroyer as space itself seemed to bend and twist. Then they appeared. The Devourer fleet materialized from hyperspace like nightmares crawling out of a black hole. "My God," whispered his tactical officer, Park Jun-ho. "How many are there?" Tae-young's jaw tightened as he counted the massive shapes blocking out the stars, hundreds of biomechanical monstrosities, each one larger than Earth's biggest cities. Their hulls pulsed with organic veins that glowed sickly green, while mechanical appendages writhed like the tentacles of some cosmic sea creature. "All ships, this is Command Alpha." Tae-young spoke into his comm system. "You know the drill. We hit them fast, we hit them hard, and we make them remember why they should have stayed home." The lead Devourer ship was the size of a small moon, its surface covered in thousands of weapon ports that looked like gaping mouths. As Tae-young's strike force of 40 human destroyers raced toward the alien fleet, communication rays across the massive ship began broadcasting in perfect English. Primitive species of the third planet, the alien voice was cold and mechanical, without emotion. "You will submit to consumption. Resistance will only increase your suffering. You have one rotation of your planet to surrender your population centers. Tae-young activated his ship's external speakers. Here's our counteroffer. Go back where you came from, or we'll send you there in pieces. The alien response was immediate. Streams of energy lanced out from the Devour ships, each beam capable of vaporizing a city block. But the human pilots had spent months training for this moment. They scattered like leaves in a hurricane, their ships dancing between the deadly beams with reckless precision. Dragon Squadron, focus fire on the command clusters. Tae-young shouted as his ship rolled beneath a blast that would have cut them in half. Phoenix Squadron, target those weapon rays. The human ships were like angry wasps attacking a giant. Their weapons barely scratched the massive alien hulls, but they kept coming, kept firing, kept moving, every time a Devourer beam found its mark. Another human ship would explode in a ball of fire and debris. Within minutes, half of Tae-young's force had been destroyed, but something unexpected happened. Instead of retreating, the surviving human ships pressed their attack even harder. Song Minji's fighter screamed past the bridge of the lead Devourer ship, her cannons blazing at point-blank range. She had lost her wingman 5 minutes ago, and her ship's hull was scarred by near misses. But she wasn't backing down. "This is Firebird Leader," she called over the comm. "I'm reading massive energy build-up in the primary command ship. They're charging some kind of superweapon." Through her cockpit window, Minji could see the alien vessel's main cannon opening like a flower of death. The weapon was easily a kilometer across, and it was aimed directly at Earth. When it fired, her home planet would be nothing but radioactive dust. "All units, concentrate fire on that cannon," Tae-young ordered, but even as he spoke, he knew their weapons weren't powerful enough to stop it. That's when Minji made her decision. She had been saving her ship's experimental fusion warhead for the right moment. The weapon was untested, dangerous, and probably suicidal to use at close range. Perfect for the situation. "Phoenix Leader 2, all ships," she said calmly, pushing her fighter into a steep dive toward the massive cannon. "Tell my family I love them." The Devourer point defense systems opened fire, filling the space around her with deadly energy beams. Her ship shook as several shots clipped her wings. But she held her course. The alien cannon was fully charged now, ready to fire. Minji's finger hovered over the detonation switch. "Hey, ugly," she whispered. "Try swallowing this." The fusion warhead detonated inside the Devourer cannon just as it was about to fire. The explosion was visible from Earth as a new star blazed to life in the darkness. When the light faded, the massive command ship was drifting dead in space, its forward section completely destroyed. But the victory came at a terrible cost. Of the 40 ships that had begun the attack, only 12 remained. Any rational species would have retreated at this point, regrouped, and tried to find another way to fight. Instead, the surviving human ships formed up for another attack. The Devourer fleet, which had been moving steadily toward Earth, suddenly stopped, across their biomechanical hulls. Millions of organic sensors focused on the tiny human ships. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Devourers encountered something they didn't understand. Analysis complete. One of the alien commanders reported to the fleet mind. "The humans have suffered 70% casualties. Standard protocol indicates they should now attempt to negotiate or flee." "Confirmed," replied another voice. "All previous species have followed this pattern. We will wait for their surrender transmission." But no surrender came instead. The 12 surviving human ships began another attack run, their weapons firing at maximum capacity. More human reinforcements were arriving from the inner system. Wave after wave of ships piloted by crews who had seen their comrades die and decided to make it count. The Devourers paused their advance, their collective intelligence struggling to process this unexpected behavior. In their entire history of conquest, they had never encountered a species that became more dangerous after suffering massive losses for the first time since leaving their home galaxy. The Devourers hesitated. The Devourer fleet regrouped after 3 days of constant human attacks, their biomechanical hulls pulsing with new adaptations. Dr. Yu Ji-hoon watched from Earth's orbital command station as the alien ships began changing their formation, spreading out to make concentrated attacks impossible. They're learning. Ji-hoon muttered, studying the tactical displays. Look at this. They've repositioned their point defense systems to cover blind spots we were exploiting. Their weapon targeting is getting faster too. Admiral Kim Seojin floated beside him, his face grim. How long before they adapt completely? At this rate, maybe 48 hours. Then our current tactics become useless. Ji-hoon pulled up biological scans of captured Devourer technology. But I think I've found something. Their adaptation process has a fatal flaw. The alien ships had been built to fight conventional wars against civilized species. They expected enemies to retreat when losses became too heavy, to negotiate when defeat seemed certain, to follow logical military doctrine. But humans weren't following any logical pattern. Every other species they've fought has been like them, Ji-hoon explained, highlighting sections of the alien neural networks. Collective minds, shared consciousness, perfect coordination. When one ship learns something, they all learn it instantly. But that also means they all share the same blind spots. Captain Kang Soyeon had been listening from across the command center. She pushed off from the bulkhead and floated over to join the conversation. What kind of blind spots? Individual initiative, personal sacrifice, the willingness to do something completely insane because it might work. Ji-hoon brought up footage from the recent battles. Look at Song Minji's attack on their command ship. No sane military computer would have calculated those odds as worth taking. But she didn't care about the odds. She cared about protecting Earth, the largest Devourer ship, a nightmare of living metal and organic tissue that dwarfed Earth's moon. Home at the center of their formation, intelligence reports indicated it, was their primary coordination hub, the central brain that controlled the entire fleet's collective consciousness. If we could get inside that mothership, Soyeon said quietly, could we disrupt their network? Ji-hoon nodded, theoretically, but it would be a one-way trip. The ship's internal defenses are designed to prevent exactly that kind of infiltration. Then we'd better make it count. Within hours, Soyeon had assembled a volunteer crew of 12 specialists. Each person knew they weren't coming back. But every hand that went up when she asked for volunteers belonged to someone who had lost family or friends in the alien attacks. Their ship was a modified assault transport, stripped of everything non-essential and packed with enough explosives to level a city. Engineer Choi Do-yeon had personally overseen the installation of an experimental quantum virus, designed to spread through the Devourer's organic computer networks. Remember, Seong told her crew as they approached the massive alien vessel, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every species the Devourers have destroyed. And every species they might destroy in the future. The mothership's surface was a maze of organic corridors and mechanical defense systems. As their transport ship punched through the outer hull, automated repair systems immediately began sealing the breach. But Song's team was already inside. Running through corridors that pulsed like arteries, the Devourer defenses were overwhelming. Biomechanical creatures that looked like metallic spiders swarmed toward them, while energy weapons built into the walls targeted anything that moved. Half of Seong's team was dead within the first 10 minutes, but the survivors kept moving deeper. Into the ship, they passed chambers filled with the processed remains of consumed civilizations, entire worlds reduced to raw materials and stored in organic tanks. They saw the Devourer's true nature, not conquerors or even predators, but something far worse. They were like a cosmic disease, converting everything they touched into more of themselves. Captain called out Specialist Kim Jae-in, the team's tech expert. I've found their central processing core, but there's a problem. The security is beyond anything we prepared for. The core chamber was vast, filled with towering structures that combined advanced technology with living tissue. The Devourer's collective consciousness flowed through these biomechanical towers like blood. Through veins, at the center sat something that might have once been a living being, but had been so modified and enhanced that it was barely recognizable as anything natural. That's their prime consciousness, Soyeon realized. The original mind that started this whole nightmare. The entity became aware of their presence, and its voice filled their minds directly, bypassing their ears entirely. Impossible. No individual consciousness should be capable of reaching this location. You should have retreated. You should have surrendered. Why do you persist in this illogical behavior? Seon smiled grimly as she activated the quantum virus. Because we're human. And humans don't give up, even when we should. The virus began, spreading through the organic networks, but the prime consciousness fought back, trying to isolate infected sections. Your sacrifice accomplishes nothing. We will adapt. We will overcome. We will consume your world as we have consumed countless others. Maybe, Soyeon admitted, her finger hovering over the detonation switch that would destroy both the ship and her team. But we'll make you work for it. And every time you fight humans, you'll remember that we don't just fight for survival. We fight because it's the right thing to do. The explosion tore through the mothership's core, sending shock waves through the entire Devour fleet. For the first time in their existence, the collective consciousness experienced something completely foreign: doubt. The destruction of the Devourer mothership sent shockwaves through the alien fleet that were both literal and psychological. Captain Kang Soyeon's sacrifice had done more than damage their central command. It had introduced something the collective consciousness had never experienced in 10,000 years of conquest. Answer. TAIN TIE. Admiral Kim Seojun watched from Earth's orbital command station as the alien ships began to behave erratically. Some moved forward aggressively, others retreated, and a few simply stopped moving altogether. Their perfect coordination was breaking down all remaining ships. This is Admiral Seojun. He broadcast across all frequencies. They're confused and hurt. Now, we finish this. The final human fleet was a patchwork of vessels from every nation on Earth. Military destroyers flew alongside converted cargo ships. Luxury yachts that had been fitted with missile launchers moved in formation with mining vessels, carrying improvised weapons. Earth had thrown everything they had into this last desperate battle. Commander Lee Min-ho, who had survived the destruction of the Taegik months earlier, now piloted a fighter constructed from spare parts and determination. Round him flew pilots from dozens of countries, speaking different languages but united by a single purpose. Dragon Squadron, focus on the biomechanical clusters on their hull. Min-ho called out as his fighter screamed toward the nearest Devour ship. Phoenix Squadron, target their weapon systems. Let's show them what happens when you threaten our home. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships dove between massive alien vessels like schools of fish attacking whales. They used ramming attacks, suicide runs, and tactics so unpredictable that the Devourer's adaptive systems couldn't keep up. Dr. Yu Ji-hoon's quantum virus, spread by Soyeon's sacrifice, was causing cascading failures throughout the alien fleet. Ships that had operated flawlessly for millennia suddenly found their organic components rejecting their mechanical parts. The perfect fusion of biology and technology that made the Devourers so powerful was becoming their weakness. But the humans were paying a terrible price for every alien ship they destroyed. Dozens of human vessels were lost. Entire squadrons vanished in balls of plasma fire. The space round Earth became a graveyard of twisted metal and burning debris. Engineer Choi Do-yen, directing the battle from a heavily damaged command ship, realized they were running out of time. Earth's electromagnetic railguns were overheating from constant use, and their ammunition was nearly exhausted. "We need something big," he told his remaining crew. "Something that will either win this war or end it completely." The solution came from an unexpected source: Earth's experimental fusion reactors. Originally designed to provide clean energy, could be overloaded to create weapons of unimaginable power. It would mean sacrificing Earth's entire power grid, potentially crippling the planet for decades. But it might be their only chance. "All stations, prepare for Operation Sunrise," Do-yen announced. "We're going to turn our sun into a weapon, using a network of satellites and space-based mirrors." Human engineers focused the sun's energy into concentrated beams that could slice through the largest Devourer ships like a laser through paper. The aliens had adapted to human weapons, human tactics, and human technology. But they hadn't adapted to humanity's willingness to risk everything for victory. The concentrated solar beams tore through the alien fleet, vaporizing ships that had survived the destruction of entire star systems, the remaining Devourers. Their collective consciousness, damaged and confused, began to retreat toward the outer edge of the solar system. But then something unprecedented happened. The prime consciousness of the Devourer fleet, broadcasting from one of their few remaining command ships, sent a message directly to Earth. Species designation: human. The alien voice was different now, less mechanical and more curious. "Your resistance pattern does not match our databases. You have suffered casualties exceeding 90%. Yet your attack intensity continues to increase. This behavior contradicts all logical military doctrine." Admiral Seargen, floating in the ruins of the orbital command station, activated the emergency communication ray. "We told you from the beginning. We're not like the others." Confirmed. "Analysis of 17 previous conquests shows no similar behavioral patterns." Question: "What drives this irrational persistence?" Seargen looked round at his surviving crew. They were exhausted, wounded, and outnumbered, but none of them showed any sign of giving up. "We fight for our families, our friends, our future. We fight because someone has to. And we fight because it's better to die standing than to live on our knees." There was a long pause. Then the alien voice returned, and for the first time, it carried something that might have been respect. "The Devourer Collective acknowledges humanity represents an anomaly that cannot be processed through standard consumption protocols. This species designation is being reclassified from prey to avoid. We withdraw from this system." The remaining alien ships began disappearing into hyperspace, one by one. But before the last vessel vanished, it transmitted a final message. "Warning will be broadcast to all Devourer fleets. The species called human cannot be consumed. They become more dangerous when threatened. They value principles above survival. They are unprecedented." As the alien fleet disappeared into the darkness between stars, Earth began broadcasting a new signal across the galaxy. It wasn't a warning about the approaching threat. It was a message of hope. "To any species listening, you are not alone. You are not helpless. If darkness comes for you, remember that somewhere in the galaxy, there are those who refuse to surrender. Fight back. Never give up. Make them regret the day they decided to threaten your home." The signal spread outward at the speed of light, carrying humanity's defiance to distant worlds. And in the deep reaches of space, other species that had hidden from the Devourers for thousands of years began to listen, and to hope, and to fight back. The ND.